actually, he's going to be pushing Red back with Red's fist in Elvis's throat. I was always amazed at why Elvis would jeopardize his singing career, allowing somebody to put their fist in his throat. Now, Red West is going to see about punching Elvis extremely hard to the stomach. And this is where Elvis is, in most of these demonstrations, is using his what we call internal power, or the key power. This is what you end up doing if somebody pulls a gun on you, or some of the techniques that can be used. Of course, here he's using this finger gouge just like to the eyes and to the face, breaking his neck. That's one bad thing about having a beard, is give somebody something to hold on to. Of course, you can see the passion that Elvis trained with. He really loved martial arts and got a lot from it. Of course, Elvis is being real careful here to grab the arm in a position so Red couldn't pull the gun back on him. And of course, in all of our karate classes, we all trained with play guns or wooden guns. And Elvis was the first entertainer I ever trained with that had to use the real McCoys. And when he slapped it out of somebody's hand, it would clang and hit the floor real hard, and I was always sort of shocked by having a real firearm that way. These techniques are coming up. They're real pretty techniques. From the Ed Parker system is where they was generated from. This is like breaking the nose and hitting the eyes almost like at the same time. Like an elbow to the chest and elbow to the chin and then hitting in the throat. And of course, karate was designed after the animals by the Orientals many hundreds and thousands of years ago. And the Hawk-hand technique, or a lot of our techniques, was derived from those. Using the fingertips on what we call crane heads, crane stances, tiger claw. This is like a tearing technique to the face. Into the eyes. The real vital area to go to is right there in the throat, solar plexus, and then to the groin. Taking his opponent down to the ground. Now this scene shows Elvis has a good sense of humor, and what you do in case somebody pulls a gun on you 10 feet away. You get on your knees and start praying. And you see a sense of humor of him laughing here. Here Elvis is saying, old master says, don't stop moving. You can see him sweating on how much energy that he put into training and working out. And I'm one of the guys in the mirror that you'll see there. Elvis did most of his self-defense techniques here with basically his bodyguards, because he knew and trusted them. And here he goes again, back in the same technique of how to pray. And here he is meditating. And this is a very vital part of martial arts. Not only is it physical, but it's spiritual and mental. And it's really important that you study your Bible and work on how to be a better person. This is some of the students that was in the class. Now, all of a sudden, we're over at Conway School. This is shot several days apart. That's me in the back by that post right behind Elvis, and the gentleman right behind him. He's fixing to sit down. Now, Conway is doing several things here, but when he's talking about Elvis getting ready to be promoted, we're giving him a rank test here this night too, but he's also doing a demonstration. And of course, in the background, you see a lot of people seated there. Of course, that's Linda Thompson right there next to him. And you see the bodyguards in the background there, leaning up against the wall. I believe that's George Klein in the back behind the post. And we're actually talking about getting a lip reader and actually go back in and put the sequence to Elvis's lips. There's a few things that he's saying there that I don't quite remember what he's saying. But right here, one of the fans had actually clawed, or actually didn't mean to hurt Elvis, but her fingernails cut into the back of his hand, getting it infected, and of course showing the importance of having good security around you at all times. You know, expecting the unexpected, even accidents can hurt you. Now, that's me right here to the left of the screen, sitting down right behind Elvis. But Elvis also had a bad ingrown toenail right here. And of course, I never did quite understand why Conway wanted to show that to the class. I don't think Elvis did either. But he had a good sense of humor about it. And then Elvis ends up joking, well, I probably just ought to just pull that thing out. I remember that quite well. And here you see him wearing his TCB patch. This was the first time he actually wore that patch. And the only one in the room at this particular event that had it on. And of course, now he's talking about the demonstration that's fixing to come up. That's me again right behind him. Of course, a lot of people wonder why he had red on his belt. Once you get to a certain degree, you're considered a master, and masters could wear an honorary color of red. Here's Red West, and he's going to get ready and put some demonstrations, and you can see the joy that our class had just watching these events taking place. Normally, we never clap in this class, but this right here was not a typical class, having that was especially present. Now he's showing his key power, and of course he's making fun of it, like a delayed reaction of really hurting. And you can see him sweating here and how much joy he got from this. And this is Red West's son. Red was training over at the other school where we were just showing it, then was testing here at this school. And I was always, this was the first time I've ever seen actually Elvis give a rank test, but Elvis was involved in this rank test along with Red West. And at the end of the student passing from yellow belt to green belt, and the student does an excellent job on this kata. This is called a kata, which is imaginary fighting. But Elvis actually hit him in the stomach, sort of like something that he would never forget all of his life. is going from one belt to another. This gentleman right here is Al Hogan. His animal name was Mr. Bear. He was an awesome fellow. Played pro football for several seasons. Got his knee hurt, but he ended up being a real dear friend of mine. Matter of fact, Al was the gentleman. I guess I've never been hit any harder from anybody than from Al. He was just had awesome power. Big man. He's over 6 foot tall, weighed about 200, probably 250, somewhere in there. Just powerful and a great sense of humor. Always had good harmony. This was going to be one of the gladiators that Elvis wanted to show our modern day time. And the gentleman with his back to us is Elvis's stepbrother, and the other one is one of the black belts from our school that was training out there. He's doing the legs. You'll notice these other gentlemen coming up here will actually use their legs a little more. Back fist, that technique right there is one of the most popular techniques in the arts because it can happen so quick. You can hit somebody because it's your leading hand. Of course, that's one of the things about using your hands over your feet. You can actually do hundreds of techniques with the hands versus 4, 5, 6, 8, maybe 10 techniques with your feet. And it takes longer for your foot to get from point A to point B versus your hands. This gentleman right here is real good. And there's many different styles. I believe this gentleman here was from what you call a go-giroux system, which used short, straight punches and straight line techniques. And but all styles were good. That was one thing that Ed Parker. I mean, I used to say, boy, I want to change systems and come over to your system, Mr. Parker. And he would say, oh, your system's fine. He said, systems is just like ice cream. There are many different flavors to it, but they're all good. The gentleman who was back with the Sergeant Strike uniform on, that is Superfoot Bill Wallace. He was the world champion here. I fought him for the world title, and he beat me in overtime. I go into that more into our book. But Bill Wallace has the best legs in the industry, and you're getting to see the best in the world right here. And you can see him parting the hair on Red West's head. Elvis actually hired him and brought him back to Memphis to be one of our teachers in the school. Elvis was going to be one of the backers of it. Elvis was going to end up help sponsoring the United States karate team, and Bill Wallace was one of the members, and of course that was one of the outfits there. You actually can see on the back of Wallace's uniform where it says Wallace and then USA. I actually had the opportunity to train with Wallace for several years, and it was one of the highlights of my career too, is getting to train with someone of his caliber. One of the very first ones to take professional karate to where it is today. He was an undefeated world champion when he retired. Not only in point karate, but also in professional kickboxing karate. And actually, Elvis and Ed Parker both tried to talk Wallace from not competing in professional kickboxing because they thought it was a little rowdy and take some of the art away, but it actually didn't. This is Dave Hebler again. And I was really impressed with Dave's ability. He was, I guess you would consider a true master, and I'm not one to believe in masters of the art, because you're always a student and learning. But Dave Hebler was extremely good and extremely fast. And he was into the laws of physics quite a bit, and that fascinated me at this time of my career. And was one of Elvis's bodyguards. Elvis actually wanted Ed Parker to come and just train with Elvis and travel with him as his bodyguard, but he had Dave Heller to do that instead, and that was one of the things that broke Ed Parker's heart after Elvis started read and Dave Heller about him doing his book. As you can see, he's just like lightning in his techniques and moves. Another gladiator. And the symbol that Dave Heller is wearing there on his chest on the right-hand side of his uniform is also the same symbol that Elvis had on his guitar. It was Ed Parker's karate system. That was his patch. And of course, Elvis knew that he had the platform to promote the martial arts. So he even put it on his guitar so the world could actually see his connection with the art so he could promote it. And this is the school I actually ended up owning after all of this happened for probably about a year, close to 2 years. This is Con Reed. Con Reed was one of Elvis's head teachers for a while, my head teacher for a while too. And I became Con Reed's head instructor at this time. In his school. Of course, Connery's talking a little bit about the philosophy of martial arts as well as giving a little prelude about the involvement and how happy he was to see Elvis producing this film that we're now watching. Connery was a lot like Bruce Lee in the aspect of being small in stature and agile like a cat, and you'll see him putting on the karate demonstration here in just a moment. And he could almost defy gravity with his kicks. But you will actually see him do a lot of kicks. Of course, he's talking about the benefit of training hard. One of Connery's favorite sayings after class, I won't ever forget, is, "Oh, you must train hard." And here he is doing what we call our 17 lethal weapon movements, but he adds a few more movements to it by adding kicks at the end. And he was so pretty doing this. Of course, you could never actually perform all of these techniques on an opponent, but you could apply 3 or 4 of these techniques at different angles, going different directions. Here he comes up with his kicks. Jumping side kick is coming up now. He was famous for it. Right there.
When Elvis was originally working on the project, what was his goal or his intent for the public to get out of the documentary?
The people that will benefit the most from this documentary are those that really want to better themselves, the ones that will see this in completion and that will take action.